And welcome to Monday, fresh week right here in front of us. It is the Vince Coglianese show. It will be the Vince Coglianese show when Vince returns. He's on the mend. We have details, real details, in 30 minutes. My name is Mike Opelka. Happy to be here. Thrilled to be here on this historic day. And if you don't believe it's a historic day, oh my goodness, you're just not paying attention. My brain, I'm trying to get my brain back to full functionality after watching the entire hearing with Dr. Antony Fauci. It's amazing. But while listening to Fauci's testimony today in the House hearing, which usually is, it's a one Republican, one Democrat, one Republican, one Democrat. And the Democrats would start out their little 5-minute time by saying, Dr. Fauci, first of all, I would like to put on some chapstick and smooch your hindquarters because you're just the greatest ever. And the Republicans are evil. And then the Republicans come in with guns a-blazing. Not real guns, of course. And will we ever have accountability for what this guy did, for what he led during the pandemic? And I say led because I think we have some evidence that if I can figure it out, I don't understand why Chairman Comer and the rest of the members of the committee can't. But I'm going to play you a little A-B comparison of some of the things Dr. Fauci said today with some of the things he put in emails just over 4 years ago, because the House didn't bring this up today, at least not to my satisfaction. So we will get to that. I think Fauci technically could have perjured himself today. So irritating, so frustrating. But there is more going on. Joe Biden is leaving Delaware soon to go to a campaign fundraiser. He's been hanging out in Wilmington, about 8.5 miles from where I sit as I speak to you in my little studio in North Wilmington, Delaware. He's staying in town because, of course, Hunter Biden's trial is underway. Jury selection is happening today, and I didn't even get called for jury duty. Boy, would I have loved that. But then I could not have been here with you today. So I am thrilled I missed out on that pleasure. It looks like, according to reports coming out of the trial already, that they will get a jury pool broken down, and then they'll start throwing people out. You can use your exclusions, etc., on either side of the aisle. So we'll find out what's happening there. But the Hunter Biden illegal purchase of a firearm trial is underway, as it were, in Wilmington, Delaware. And I did drive through downtown Wilmington a little bit earlier. I didn't see Caitlin, what's her name, from over at CNN, sitting on the sidewalk in a director's chair. They didn't have the little panels. Fox wasn't out there either. So this doesn't have the same weight as the Trump trial in Lower Manhattan. It also is a little bit farther away from the HQ of the networks. But they all have their reporters there. Joe Biden, when he leaves Wilmington, Delaware today to go to the campaign appearance, I think it's in Connecticut, he is expected to announce some sort of action on the border, which is interesting that, now that the election is 156 days away, Joe Biden has decided to announce some action on the border where 12 million, God knows how many million people have come in. And reportedly, one of the guys who crossed illegally was one of the people who shot two NYPD officers yesterday. Yeah, nothing to take any action seriously about in a big hurry, Joe. But here's what bothers me about Joe Biden finally deciding to do something and say something about the border back in January of this year. Not that long ago. It's just barely 6 months ago. Joe Biden told the world that he didn't have the power. He was asked as he was leaving the White House, getting ready to get on Marine One, if he was going to do something about the border. Sir, you've got to do something. You see the wave of people coming in. You see the effects it's having on the cities around the country. We understand that this is a crisis, a problem. It's unsustainable. A word you usually use with the climate. But Joe Biden, he was kind of flustered and frustrated because he just didn't have the power.
With executive authority, is there more you could do absent
That's not all I can do. Just give me the power. I've asked for the very day I got in office. Give me the border patrol. Give me the people, the judges. Give me the people who can stop this and make it work for us.
Give me the people to make this happen. Give me the power. Power. Interesting that was like the first thing that came out of his mind. I need the power. I must have more power. He usually says money, too. But he wanted the power. He wanted more people on the border, more border agents. Why? So they can be changing diapers for the babies that come across the border, because that's what a lot of them are doing. Taking care. It's daycare for some of our customs and border agents who should be protecting the border. He said he didn't have the power. He didn't have the control. He didn't have the money. And now we learn he's getting ready to announce he's going to take action. We also learned over the weekend the Biden administration has quietly dismissed more than 350,000 asylum applications from people who were waiting for their day in court. Just dismissed them. Said, we took a little cursory look here. We don't think there's anything real risky here. We're just going to let them go. 350,000. 350,000. And they didn't do a full vetting of those people. I wonder if there's anything to be concerned about. We know that there are great numbers of people who've crossed the border into this country from China. Mostly military-aged men, not families with children. And you wonder what was the makeup of the over 350,000 asylum applications just since 2022 that were dismissed, meaning they won't be expected to come back for a hearing. Did you just grant them asylum in the country? Did you just green light their entrance now? And what happens now? And who's responsible for those people if there's something wrong with those people? I wonder. It's all very interesting, isn't it, as we approach the most important election in our country's history. And I say that without hyperbole. I say that with sincerity. And, the Biden administration is just so pleased to say that Joe's opponent is a convicted felon. And we'll talk about that situation as well today. We have to talk about all the news from Donald Trump's camp from over the weekend, because it was a busy weekend for the Trump camp, too. I'm not done with Joe Biden. He will be on the ballot in Ohio. Ohio is kind of funny. The Democrats scheduled their convention after the deadline for being on the ballot in Ohio. It was well after the deadline. And the Republican governor of the state of Ohio, Mike DeWine, said, we can't do this. You can't exclude the guy. Look, I agree. But, the Biden administration should have been on their game. The DNC should have been on their game a little bit more and said, we're going to make an appeal before this because our convention is too late for your ballot restriction or your ballot regulations. So there you go. They made a special exemption to get Joe on the ballot in Ohio. And I really don't have a problem with that, because I honestly believe you want the leading candidates, all of them. And I'm including RFK Jr. And yeah, we can even include all the other nut jobs out there, the Green Party, the Maroon Party. Yeah, because they are Maroons, right? Whatever candidate is legitimately eligible to be on a ballot, you want them on the ballot, because at the end of the day, you want people to say it was a free and fair election, and everybody who wanted to have a vote marked in their favor had that opportunity. Can you imagine if we had played by the rules? Because the Democrats are always saying, well, you didn't follow the rules. Well, had we actually played by the rules and Ohio had kept Joe Biden off the ballot, and it was a close election, I don't think it's going to be close. If it was a close election, and then they were saying, well, we didn't have a chance in Ohio. So I'm all in for this. I'm okay with it. Because we can always point to our benevolence and our good-natured selves and say, well, yeah, we could have kept you off, but we want it to be fair. Something you guys are always grousing about. If you think I'm wrong, the phone lines are always open here on the Vince Coglianese Show. 888-630-9625 is the number, of course. In terms of throwing Joe Biden off of the ticket, not just off of the ballots in states, David Axelrod has come out and said, look, can everybody stop with that fantasy? He's not talking to Republicans. He's talking to Democrats. Apparently, they're trying to tamp down a lot of the growing fervor for making a move on Joe. And I don't think it's going to happen before the convention. It could happen during the convention. We'll see. We shall see. In terms of Donald Trump, a CBS poll, which is kind of interesting to see this one. A CBS poll over the weekend showed a majority of independents think Donald Trump got a fair trial. It's hard to say that without laughing. Right? In New York City. Hard to believe. But yes, independents think he got a fair trial. That doesn't mean they won't vote for him. That doesn't mean they think it's a real serious crime. And Mr. Trump was on with the Fox and Friends weekend audience over the weekend, on with Will Cain, specifically. Will Cain, a great guy, by the way. I don't know if he's been on the show. I should ask Corey about that during the break. Will Cain has posted the entire 90 minutes with Donald Trump on his podcast, The Will Cain Show. And Mr. Trump was asked about the possibility of jail time. And he very quietly, calmly said, I'm okay with it. And the left is freaking out about what Donald Trump said in this interview. I'm more disturbed that the people over at Fox didn't have enough microphones to have a good mic on each of the three people who were asking questions of the former president. It just seemed like that all the questions were off mic. Why? You didn't have this as a last-minute thing because you all had to go to Bedminster, New Jersey for this. Bad preparation. Bill Maher is predicting a civil war if Donald Trump gets jail time. We will get into that, of course. Bill Maher trying to regain his bona fides with the left after he said some statements that ticked people off because he pointed out some of the inconsistencies in messages. And Mr. Trump over the weekend attended the UFC fight, UFC 302, and the crowd loved him. He also announced that he has now joined TikTok. He has joined TikTok. He has the ability to get back on Twitter. He has Truth Social, of course. But the joining of TikTok, which is something I'm against TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. Yes, I do believe it's a dangerous thing. And people are saying, what do you have to hide? Nothing. I have nothing to hide. But Donald Trump has joined TikTok, and in a matter of moments, he now has triple the number of TikTok followers as the Biden campaign, which has been on TikTok for quite some time. So I just want you to let that marinate for a little bit. So Donald Trump on TikTok, more than tripling the Biden campaign followers. Are you surprised? No. And if you've been paying attention to the news, you know the money story. If you've been paying attention to the news, you know the story of the money that was raised since Donald Trump and the verdict. And some say it's just astronomical. $200 million, according to a report from Eric Trump. That includes big donors, too. Big donors. I see the phones are starting to light up. We will go to the phones. I have to take a break first. Love the O'Connor. Larry O'Connor is one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. He really is. He's a party in skin. He's just a covered in skin, a complete party, and a smart guy, too. Mike Opelka is my name, in for Vince Coglianese. Once more, I'll be here as long as Vince needs me. Update on Vince coming in about 10 minutes, so you can't go anywhere. We're almost out of time this half hour, but Penny in Burke is on the phone. Hello, Penny. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for taking my call. I wanted to tell you you're doing a great job on Saturday Morning Update. We really like that show a lot.
Oh, God bless you. It's my honor to sit in there whenever I can, and I'll be back there whenever they need me to. Thank you, Penny.
All right. Well, my comment is about this idea that as Republicans, we're supposed to accept Joe Biden on the ballot in Ohio, even though they're not following the rules. And I just think this is so short-sighted because one could only be thinking that this next election is going to be totally fair and above board. And what if it's not? And what if Ohio is the deciding factor and yet they didn't follow the rules? We're always held responsible for, as Republicans, we must follow the rules or we might end up in prison.
Well, I do think, it's a fair point to make. I'm not that concerned about Ohio, and I'm not that concerned. I do think this is going to be an election that the margin of victory is going to be more than decisive. Even the phrase too big to rig comes to mind when I hear this. So I understand what you're saying. I would put a case of the good Coca-Cola, the Mexican Coke with cane sugar in it, on the line in a gamble to say, I don't think Ohio will be the determining factor. But it's a fair point you make. And I think Ohio came out to say, we don't want this to become a crazy legal battle, so we're going to change the rules. It's better than what Pennsylvania did in the last election, where they just changed the acceptability of mail-in ballots without going through the legislative process. At least there was some procedural instruction behind this one. So much to get to. Update on Vince. What's up with my buddy Vince Coglianese? We'll tell you just around the corner right here on the Vince Coglianese Show with Mike Opelka on WMAL. It is 3:34 on this Monday, the third day of June. Boy, June got here quickly, didn't it? And guess what? Election Day, November 5th, is going to get here quickly as well. I know it seems like it's a long way off, and in political terms, 150-plus days is virtually a lifetime. But it will be here in the blink of an eye. We have so much to do and so many things to talk about today. The Fauci hearing today is important, but is anything going to come of it? I'll give you some of my observations as well. And if anything breaks out of Wilmington, Delaware, where the Hunter Biden trial has begun for the illegal purchase of a firearm, they're going to try and drag the gun store through the mud. And the people at that store are just such nice people. Really good people. I hope they come out of this okay. They certainly destroyed the life. The Biden family and what they did about the laptop certainly destroyed the life and business of the guy who was just running a little computer repair shop in the Trolley Square section of Wilmington. John Paul Mac Isaac. He's just the nicest guy, and he's had to go undercover. I think he's making furniture in North Carolina now. What a terrible, terrible thing they did to him. So imagine what they might do to anyone who stands in the way of Hunter. They're going to go after the store. You know it. We know how this works. I mentioned earlier that it is the Vince Coglianese Show. And Vince out most of last week, and I was here last week, and I'll be here as long as Vince needs me to be here. Vince, not 100% yet. And the best way to explain this is to get it through the message, through the family, through Vince's bride, and as she explained it, to Corey Inganamort. Corey is joining us. Corey, I know you're not always on the mic, but I'm going to lean on you here to kind of update us and tell us how Vince is doing.
Of course. Well, I have been talking to Vince the past couple days and weeks, and obviously it's a bit of an elephant in the room. This is the Vince Coglianese Show. Where is Vince Coglianese? So I want to walk you through what's happened the last couple days. I just want to let listeners know it's a happy ending. Vince is doing okay right now. He's at home recovering.
Wait. Are you sure we're allowed to talk about happy endings on this show in D.C.? Come on, there's a whole inappropriate.
That's the most PG thing that happens.
Oh, okay.
I mean, look at what happens in the Senate office buildings. I mean,
that's right.
This is the least of it. But
you
anyway,
know, it'll be reported. Vince Colonne's happy ending in the Vince Colonne show. Stop it. Sorry.
Well, so Vince is home recovering, but it was a bit of a hectic week. As you remember, last week on Tuesday, he asked me to co-host with him because he wasn't feeling very well. So he got through that show. He was powering through it, but I saw he was not physically well. He was he gave a world-class performance as he always does, but his energy wasn't there off air, and I just knew something was wrong. So the next day he went to the doctor's office, and he had strep throat. That's what the doctor told him, but it was a pretty severe case of strep throat. They were worried about a potential abscess growing in his throat. So they gave him some medications. He started taking those, and he thought he would be getting better, but he actually got worse. So Wednesday, that was when he was diagnosed with strep throat. Things didn't get better on Thursday. Him and his wife, they went to the hospital to get it checked on. And they did. They found an abscess growing in the left side of his throat. It was a fairly large one. He said it was 1 centimeter wide by 5 centimeters long, which is about the size of an AR bullet, if you think of it in those terms. I mean, that's pretty large. And anytime there's a abscess in a radio show host's throat, there's obviously some concern. We need Vince's voice, and if they're going to operate on it, we need this all to go very, very well. So they did perform surgery on Friday. They put him under for it. He was under for quite a few hours. And on Saturday, he woke up from that. I had a chance to visit him in the hospital, and it's hard to see Vince like that. He had tubes down his throat. He wasn't able to speak. His wife was communicating everything that had happened, but he still had his sense of humor. He typed on his phone. He said, "Of course, this abscess is growing the left side of my throat. It's always the left trying to censor me." So his sense of humor was still there. He had a gag order placed on him, so he wasn't able to speak for quite a while. But things got better. The tubes got removed, and that was the last bit of risk that was involved because, again, anytime you have tubes down a radio show host's voice, there's some risk removing those. Your vocal cords are right there. But it all went very well. He texted me Saturday. He said, "I'm back. I'm walking around in the hospital. Feeling good, getting my energy back." And that was an update on Saturday. And so I got a phone call yesterday, Sunday afternoon, and to my surprise and much, much pleasure, as Vince Coglianese was on the other line. He was able to talk to me for a little bit, give me a little bit of update. His voice sounded exactly how I remembered. It was all perfect in every single way, and he told me,
really,
man,
good.
He misses everybody. He is just chomping at the bit to get behind a microphone, especially with this crazy historic news cycle. He has so much to say. Unfortunately, he can't say it right now, but when he comes back, which will be hopefully very soon, he's going to have so much to say, and he just wants to say he's been feeling all the love. A lot of you have been messaging me, telling me over the phone when I take your calls that they're thinking of Vince, they're praying for Vince. I've been relaying those messages over to him. He feels those concerns, he feels those prayers, and he thanks you all for them, and he cannot wait to get back. We were unfortunately without Vince last night at the Free Speech Forum over at the Birchmere in Alexandria. We had a great time with Larry, Chris, Mark Levin, Julie, Patrice, and something was definitely missing, and not having Vince there, it hurt right in the feelings, Mike. I missed him so much, and I know he really wanted to be there to meet so many of you great listeners as well. But that's the update. He's doing well. He's at home. He texted me last night that he just got home Sunday night. He's recovering. There'll be up days, bad days, but he's chomping at the bit, and he'll be back real soon.
Excellent. That is the best news, because there was concern that, as Corey said, anytime a radio host's voice is involved in a medical problem, that's your livelihood. And the fact that Vince is able to make phone calls and sound as good as Corey's telling us he sounded, that's just excellent. Corey, I'm just worried. I know we're waiting to see when Vince will return here to the studio, to his microphone, to his chair, to his audience. Is there a prognosis on how soon the bourbon cabinet can be reopened again?
Well, when I visited him in the hospital, we did bring him a nice bottle of bourbon, and I said, "Sorry, Vince, you can't drink it now, but this is incentive to get better." So my bet is that he is going to get better real soon because he's probably pretty thirsty at this point.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Vince has a great collection of bourbon, by the way, Mike. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I've never seen his collection, but we had a bourbon discussion at CPAC, and I'm sure we'll continue that discussion going forward. That's a good idea. I might have to break out one of my bottles and send it to him as a good incentive to get healthy and do everything the doctors say, because you don't want to relapse in any way, shape, or form. I'm just thinking about the size of that abscess, and it's not true. Abscess does not make the heart grow fonder. I don't care. Oh, that's terrible. I apologize
I
to
take
everyone.
that laugh back. I didn't mean to laugh at that. That was awful.
You did, though. But it's okay.
Damn it.
Well, thank you. Vince Coglianese on the mend, speaking, but not ready to be on the microphone yet, still dealing with some of the healing after that situation with the possibly the world's worst strep throat case I've ever heard that went straight to abscess, and a significant woman. God bless the doctors and nurses and everybody who took care of him. And Vince, get well soon, my friend. Really, really miss you like a front tooth, as they say. Thank you, Corey. That's much appreciated.
Thank you, Mike. See ya.
Wow. Yeah, I will tell you, as a guy whose mouth makes his living for him, that's one of the more frightening things. And my wife often says, "How can you talk so long and keep your voice?" I've been doing it for 40 years, lady. It's a muscle that you develop over time. So many of you had great thoughts for Vince, and we appreciate it. I'm going to keep going on the phones because the phones are moving and grooving today again. You are welcome to join us at 888-630-9625. I'm going to break down the testimony today of Dr. Fauci. I need a little more time to do it, so let's go to the phones. Check in with Charles in Eldersburg, Maryland. Hello, Charles. Welcome to the program.
Hello, Mike. And I keep getting your name mixed up with Susie Palka. That used to be with WTOP. I forget what the station was now. It used to be Channel 5. Mike, listen, I hear different things about Joe Biden may or may not be the Democratic nominee. Let me tell you why I strongly believe he will not be the Democratic nominee.
Okay.
And two words. Hunter Biden. We've got this trial going, and to make a long story short, assuming man's innocent until proven guilty, so presumably this guy is guilty. Let's presume he is fully, which I believe. If I had accomplished what Hunter Biden had done with the gun thing, I right now would be through my sixth year of a 5 to 25 year prison sentence. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Hunter gets convicted, what Mr. Biden will do. And what I strongly believe he's going to do, and this is his out, he will pardon Hunter Biden, and in exchange for not being impeached over this, he will withdraw from running for president.
So
and the Democratic Party will pick.
Well,
yeah,
let's examine that. I understand what you're saying, Charles, but pardoning your son, if he is convicted, it's still a big if, because let's face it, the case is in Delaware. It should be an open and shut case for those of us who understand the Second Amendment and the gun laws. But if he is convicted and Joe pardons him, that's a presidential pardon. He has that power on federal crimes. Is that an impeachable offense? Because it seems like it's not necessarily high crimes and misdemeanors.
What is an impeachable offense? When they were talking about the same thing a couple years ago or several years ago with Donald Trump, they used a quote from Gerald Ford when he was Speaker of the House. What is an impeachable offense in the House of Representatives? Anything we want.
Okay, that's fair point. That's fair enough. Yeah, I get that. I just, I think I get it. I think you're right. I don't think he's going to be. I've said this for a while, but I also said the controversial statement. I don't think they're going to let either of these guys be the nominee. I think Trump's got a better chance than Biden. But the other part of that, Charles, when you said you had a 2-word reason why, I thought you were going to say Kamala Harris, because I think she's the stumbling block here. If Kamala Harris is still the vice president, it's assumed she would get that nomination, even though she hasn't earned a thing to make that so. So until they have an easy way, an off-ramp to get her out, meaning a Supreme Court nomination, that Joe isn't going anywhere. So there are all kinds of things at play here. I think we got a little bit of 3D chess going on here.
Yeah,
just the thought.
No, I can't see them. And I used to be a registered Democrat for 50 plus years until I moved up here into Carroll County. I gave up trying to reform the Democratic Party down where I used to live.
Well, the party left you is what you're saying, right? You didn't leave the party. The party left you.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Shays. Yep. Ronald Reagan said that to Tip O'Neill.
Yes,
and
sir.
I don't have to apologize to my squadron mates anymore. I'm a registered Democrat, but I'm ashamed to admit it. Well, I don't have to admit it anymore. With respect to Kamala Harris, not even the Democrats are that dumb. They know she's too stupid to do to be the president. For one thing, she'd would have by now engineered a 25th Amendment pull on Biden.
Yeah, but they have the country, the African American vote in the country, the people who would normally vote for someone based on checking the boxes of gender and color would flip out if she were not offered the chance if Joe were gone. That would be an internal war in the party. So they have to find an off-ramp for her, and that's what they're doing. I'm up against the wall, Charles, but great call. Did you intimate that you were in the service, sir, when you said your squadron? Did you serve this country?
You can say that. I have to be deliberately cryptic of military organization or military-related organization that I'm part of. So we'll just let it go at that.
Message received and salute and respect delivered to you, sir. Thank you.
All right.
And there he goes.
I'll let you go because you're on the time schedule. So
I am, sir. I am, sir. Very interesting. Yeah, I think that I like his thinking here, but we'll see what happens with Hunter and the trial. Anything can happen in courtrooms, as we've learned in the last 7 days. I mentioned it earlier. That app is absolutely fantastic. You should have it, and no pun intended in absolutely. It just happens. It's Mike Opelka. That's me, in for Vince Coglianese, who is on the mend. That was good news. If you weren't paying attention early, you'll have to get the app and go back to 3:30 and listen and hear Corey's explanation. We are going to be covering the hearing today. Going to be covering the hearing that Dr. Fauci attended today, and getting into it with Robert Moffat, the senior research fellow at Heritage, in just a little bit as well. And I have some clips because there were some fireworks there with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she's somebody that I kind of run hot and cold on. Not exactly my cup of tea in how to make your point, but then she will make a point. And she was really, really getting after it with Dr. Fauci today, and he was getting a little rattled.
You said I made anything up.
You admitted that you made it up. You made it up as you went.
I didn't say I made it up.
So are you saying this is fake news, Mr. Fauci?
I didn't say I made anything up.
What did you say?
I said that it is not based in science and it just appeared.
But this is science.
What does dogs have to do with anything that we're talking about today?
These are scientific experiments. This is what you signed off on. But you also told the American people they had to distance by 6 feet. They had to wear a mask.
And she kept calling him Mr. Fauci. She should have added Little Mister, like when the teachers would yell at me, Little Mister, get in here.
scientists and doctors getting paid by the American people, government taxpayer paychecks to get patents, where they're paid millions and hundreds of millions of dollars in royalty fees, especially when the NIH and these government agencies, most powerful agencies in our country, are recommending medical suggestions and advice and making up guidelines like 6 feet distancing and masking of children. Do you think that's appropriate? Do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci? Because you're not doctor. You're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes. No, I don't need your answer.
So it got heated after that. And there were points of order and calls to reference Dr. Fauci with more respect. We'll share that with you around the corner. It was fun, but it also got into some areas that I think Fauci may have not told the truth. I'll explain just around the corner. It's Mike Opelka in for Vince Coglianese on this Monday on WMAL.